If you love Star Wars and love the excitement of chasing your favorite Star Wars collectibles, the Star Wars Digital Card Trader collecting app from Topps is for you. Download the free app from iTunes or Google Play and collect your favorite images from the classic 1977 Star Wars cards to Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, The Force Awakens, and much more. Collect and trade with friends new and old through the Star Wars Digital Card Trader collecting app from Topps. These are the cards you're looking for.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z and Corey Clubb, the podcast you're looking for. This is, yes.
For an entire generation, people have experienced Star Wars the only way it's been possible, on the TV screen. But if you've only seen it this way, you haven't seen it at all.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
We've been waiting for you.
The force is strong here, even stronger than the coffee.
At last! Where have you been?
Welcome to Coffee with Kenobi. Here are your hosts, Dan Z and Corey Clubb.
Hello, CWK family, and welcome to show number 56 of Coffee with Kenobi. We are a Star Wars podcast that analyzes our favorite saga in a whole new way. I'm Corey Clubb, and with me is my good friend and co-host, Dan Z.
Hello to all of you, and thank you for joining us. A special shout out to Jason Hall, Joe Taylor, Dennis Keithley, Walt Fishin, Bradley W. Hall, Daniel, Angela Souse, Mediocre Jedi, Jared Cantor, BJ Smith, Eric Struthers, Nick DiCo, Aaron Harris, Mark Suter, Jesse, and Mike Audette for their contributions to our Coffee with Kenobi Patreon page. Thanks to each of you for your generosity to our show and for helping us provide a place where so many people are able to share their unique voice in Star Wars fandom.
There are so many awesome perks and opportunities for being a Patreon contributor to Coffee with Kenobi, including CWK t-shirts, coffee mugs, even being on a coffee chat podcast of your very own. It's completely your show. You create the topic and questions and host the show with us as we chat about Star Wars over a cup of coffee. Check out the webpage or the show notes for more information, and you'll see more amazing opportunities as well, including even bigger ways to be part of Coffee with Kenobi you won't believe.
In today's show, Riley Blanton makes his Coffee with Kenobi debut as we discuss our topic for show number 56, Paradoxes in the Star Wars Universe. Star Wars Celebration London just ended, and with all the incredible announcements, we have a lot of exciting Star Wars things to talk about. Nick DiCo is back to share his thoughts on Star Wars video games as well.
In collector's news, we look at Jyn Erso's Rogue One action figure and reveal a brand new way to experience Coffee with Kenobi at home with your favorite beverage. So pull up a chair, grab your favorite Star Wars mug, and let's have some Coffee with Kenobi.
And now, let's see what's brewing in the Star Wars universe this week.
Oh, wait. This is interesting. You found something.
I'm about to let everyone in on the secret.
Celebration London just wrapped up, and it seemed like a really spectacular event. Unfortunately, Corey and I were not there, but there were so many cool things that happened. I felt really like Coffee with Kenobi was well represented there. So let's kind of look at these different things, Corey. Mm-hmm. First panel was, of course, the main panel, the Rogue One panel. What are some standouts for you about that?
Oh, man. It's funny because in these kind of situations where Dan and I kind of get news coming in, like we've mentioned before, we try to one-up each other, and a lot of stuff is coming from you, Dan, and I missed a couple things online that they had produced out, and one of them was we'll talk about the poster that came out. Yeah. And
I thought you'd go there first.
Yeah. I know, it's unique. It's something different. I think it's really cool. I think it's an interesting take on not necessarily doing the classic Hollywood giant faces, if you will, on the front of a movie poster, and it shows kind of what the whole thing is going to be about. I love the setting in a sense of this island planet, very tropical, very relaxing, but yet there's this giant battle going on between the Empire and the Rebels, and it's cool. And of course, the huge Death Star in the background really shows its ambiance as far as what we're going to deal with through the whole storyline.
And we're introduced to new planets when we saw the beach location where the AT-ATs are in the teaser trailer. And the planet is called Scarif, Scarif. It's the beach world. And Gareth Edwards, who seemed particularly charming, more than I expected. I made no secret that I did not love Godzilla at all, but he seems to be quite passionate about Star Wars. He talked about meeting Mark Hamill on set, and George Lucas came and visited, and his reactions were, I felt, very much authentic to how you or I might react if such a thing were if we were to put in that kind of a situation. So that was cool. He also talked about how the stormtroopers in that great picture that's in Entertainment Weekly, the background isn't CGI or it's actually how it looked, because he said,
that's cool.
This planet is like paradise. We had to go to paradise to film it. And the guys that were in the stormtrooper armor for this scene were actually soldiers from the country. And he asked them, what does it feel like to be in a Star Wars movie and to be a stormtrooper? And they said they didn't know what a stormtrooper was. Do you know what a stormtrooper is? And they said no. And so I guess it really wasn't as stressful for them, which is kind of funny. So that's one thing. I like the poster too. It was cool. I can't wait to get my hands on one if that is going to happen. Everybody at the panel walked home with one, which is pretty cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. So there's another thing that stood out to you, I'm guessing, besides the poster.
Yes.
Go ahead and say, I'll see if I'm correct.
The sizzle reel.
Really? I didn't think you were going to say that.
You don't think so?
No, I thought you were going to talk about how Ben Mendelsohn came out in character.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I thought,
say that too.
Love this.
Yeah. Director Kenrick came out. Like you said, I'm sorry.
It's Krennic.
I don't know these names well enough.
Yeah, I don't
know. They're all still like forming in my mouth, I think. Put it that way. They're still, the baby names. They're just
sure.
Blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, Director Krennic came out, like you said, very similar to the Loki reveal.
Yes.
Did you catch that? Like Tom Hiddleston kind of coming out, obviously in character.
Yeah.
Very, very dashing. I don't think he's a handsome guy. He's a handsome fellow, and definitely, I think it's might be the uniform. It's very cool. I think it's. I'm not one to like brag on the Empire, I guess, but he definitely pulls us off with the cape. I'm a huge fan of the cape. But then, like you said, he comes out in character and does some spiel and stuff, and I think that's fun. It just shows so much of the characters and the cast are enjoying themselves. They're enjoying the celebration. They're enjoying the atmosphere of the fans. They're getting people excited, and they themselves are just as excited.
Yeah, there were a lot of little things that came out. You mentioned the sizzle reel. We'll hit that at the end of this, I'm sure. But other things that happened, we got to see a little bit about each of the characters. Every actor talked about their character briefly, and right off the bat, Felicity Jones seemed charming as can be.
Yeah,
and they gave her the 6-inch Black Series figure of Jen Erso,
very cool,
which looks fantastic. Hasbro sent us a press release, which we immediately distributed, and the detail on this one looks really good. I've been sort of hit and miss with these Black Series action figures, but this one looks pretty legitimate. There are no pre-sales for it yet because I'm sure it'll be Force Friday on September 30th before we can do that. And remember, the reason I remember Force Friday, September 30th, is because it's my birthday. So,
man,
even more reason to buy me all kinds of Star Wars presents, Corey.
There you go.
Felicity talked about Jin as a new kind of hero, and I thought this was really cool because she said, Jin is not asking, let's have it, right? Jin Erso is not asking, who am I and where did I come from? Rather, she knows where she came from, and that propels the story and her journey. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's cool. It's cool because it's there's something established there. We're not looking to necessarily we're learning who she is, but also she's not wandering the sand dunes and looking to find her place in the universe. She already has a statement to make and knows where she's going. So tell me something about the pace of the movie, maybe that we kind of get things going and rolling right off the bat. I would hope so. I mean, obviously it seems like a fast-paced trailer from what we've seen previously. But her description of the character gets me excited about the character that we don't know a whole lot about. But very cool.
She seems very assertive, obviously, and very confident, in a very interesting way that I'm looking forward to seeing how that actually fleshes out. We learned a lot more about the Diego Luna character, Cassian. He's rebel intelligence, and it says he's pretty much a peacekeeper. And his best friend is K2SO, voiced by Alan Tudyk. He was quite a character. It's interesting the fact that they were quite colorful with their language sometimes and how they're talking about this. They seem to get quite a kick, and they all seem to have fun kind of ribbing ribbing Tudyk, which I thought was a good time. But what do you think about that character, that droid?
Yeah, it's cool. I read in an interview. He got to meet
Anthony Daniels.
Anthony Daniels, thank you. And it was kind of talking about becoming a droid in Star Wars and such. And he got to say, "Well, you're in a suit, right?" He's like, "No, it's all CGI." And he's like, "Oh, great," kind of rolling it off his back in a sense. He called
him a poop, but he didn't say the word poop.
That's what I was trying to allude to. But I think it's cool that Alan Tudyk's character K2SO is like the reverse of C-3PO. He says what he means, kind of, but he's also been programmed by Cassian, the character, to work for them and Rebel Alliance. And it's cool to see that in a droid, that he's not just necessarily just a servant droid and doing what he's asked to be to do. He's just kind of making his own mark. He's voicing his own opinion, and maybe that's not all to each character's liking.
I love that, especially when Alan Tudyk said that if you know any old people, he's like that.
That's right.
Or again, like I said in the last show, or like me if I won the lottery, just kind of say whatever spills off the tongue. He said he had a good time playing him. The design, I'm not quite sure about yet. It hasn't grown on me quite yet. But I also used to say that about the new Stormtrooper armor. Now I can't get enough of that either. So it's obviously, when they filmed it, he had some sort of apparatus, but the CGI will complement a little bit more, which is really neat. We also saw the name of another planet. It's Jeddah. It's another world in Rogue One, and that's the home to Chirrut Donnie Yen's staff-wielding blind warrior. That's where we're going to meet him. And there's a little bit of description about this planet on Entertainment Weekly that Anthony Bresnikan talked about, and it's kind of been sent through the airways ever since Celebration London. But basically, this is like a place that people go or can go is very, very strong in the Force. And there's just something very spiritual about this place. It's going to be interesting why or what this is all about. Is, again, we don't speculate, but there's some interesting aspects about this too.
Well, the other thing too is it's kind of cool that we don't get a whole lot of this in like the other films,
right?
And this isn't really necessarily in the vein of Skywalker, so this is something different. And a lot of stuff is so new to us, and it's speaking to these actors and getting to know some of their characters' names and such, it's hard to kind of trip over yourself a little bit and kind of like, okay, well, who's that guy again? What was he do? These are all just fresh ideas and new characters to grab a hold of and new locations. I think it's so much fun to be able to talk about
new
brand
planets.
New stuff. Yeah, very cool, very cool.
These planets seem like characters.
Yeah,
I can't really explain why, but they seem to be much more allegorical in tone as far as what they mean and what they imply. I mean, you can certainly take different planets and analyze them and pick them apart, and I think that's a lot of fun to do. But there seems to be something strong about this as well. Anything else about this Rogue One panel that you wanted to bring up?
Oh man, it's they bring up obviously Darth Vader, and James Earl Jones, and that's just still I don't know. It's just there's such a power there.
Did you say that because of the quote?
The quote. It was looking at the quote. Yeah, and it strikes me as something that's like obviously synonymous with Star Wars itself, Darth Vader, and you almost think like, why wouldn't he be in the film? And such. But it's cool to see the actors kind of react and the producers and such, and kind of working with him and that presence of that iconic figure on film.
Well, it was neat when Edwards was talking about he flew to New York with Matthew Wood, and he said that they would say, "Oh, that's great, Mr. Jones, that's great, good job," and then he would turn to Matthew and say, "Oh my gosh," he would just be completely floored. And he mentioned, we said a few moments ago the word power.
Yeah.
But apparently when James Earl Jones said that, they were very, very excited, incredibly moved by it, and just, how could you not be? He said. Gareth Edwards said, and I can relate to this as well, that he watched Star Wars a million times on beta, and I did too. And now he's making a Star Wars movie with Darth Vader in it, and James Earl Jones is the voice. Phenomenal. But we need to talk about the sizzle reel. Not only the sizzle reel itself, but kind of fan reactions to it as well. And you mentioned this at the top of our show, so why don't you dive in and tell me what you thought about the sizzle reel and reactions?
Well, I will say, firstly, I'm kind of disappointed there wasn't a second trailer. I thought we kind of get something a little extra I'm okay with the sizzle reel. I think they're kind of leading into more to come, I think. But for it itself, I really enjoyed it. I think the music was great on it. Very kind of interesting, the fact that they showed a lot of different characters kind of towards the end half of the reel itself. It was like kind of a flash of different characters. I thought that was cool. Had a lot of these characters I haven't seen yet, and which I can't seem to forget with Star Wars. There's so many different types of characters that we see. Obviously we see them in cantinas and stuff like that, but not necessarily on either side of the rebellion or the Empire. So I think that was really neat. Obviously there's a lot of action, a lot of explosions and things like that. And again, like the locations and stuff, they're really beautiful. They really are.
I echo your sentiments on that. When I was watching this, I was actually waiting of all places to get an oil change. So I had the live stream on. I had my earbuds in and I was watching it. And then when they brought out Krennic, they had music to introduce him that I'd never heard in Star Wars, and maybe it's something obscure that I just don't know. But I feel like it's a hint to the soundtrack for Rogue One.
Oh, good point.
And if it is, it was beautiful, and it'd be the first
look at that.
Yeah, the first non-Williams kind of theme, but it was pretty spectacular. Mm-hmm. And then when they were going to play the sizzle reel, I expected a trailer, but right off the bat, the first image they showed, I could tell it wasn't. And I thought, they're just going to do kind of a behind-the-scenes thing. And a lot of people got pretty worked up about that. And that's fair. That's fair. I was a little disappointed. I actually tweeted out the third time they showed the exact same sizzle reel. I thought, why are they doing this? It's almost like they don't realize what they're showing. And then I realized quite soon after, and a lot of astute people responded to this on Twitter to me as well, that the people in Celebration London at that stage got to see something different. Mm-hmm. And they got to see, I guess, an image of like an upside down camera angle of a black figure in red and smoke or something. I haven't seen it yet, but here's the thing. Last year, some people are getting a little confused, but this is how it happened. Episode 7 at Celebration Anaheim, we got the trailer. At San Diego Comic-Con, months later, we got a sizzle reel for episode 7, The Force Awakens. Mm-hmm. Now it is obviously backwards. They've just chosen a different angle. I'm a little surprised they didn't show a trailer at Celebration. That seems to be the place to do it. But maybe they didn't want to be predictable like they were last year, and they kind of flipped it around. And then they showed, ABC had the Secrets of the Force Awakens on Friday night of the week of Celebration. And there was always talk and speculation that the Rogue One trailer would be there, but it was just basically a little more added to the sizzle reel itself.
Well, it's interesting you say it that way, and I kind of thought about this too. I mean, we talked to some guys at work, we watched it together, and I got talking about it, and they're like, well, why wasn't it a trailer? And my aspect is, they could show anything at Celebration and be a success. It's something new, something, behind the scenes or whatnot, and this is kind of that case. Now, coming up this weekend is San Diego Comic-Con, which there's a lot of different things going on. They're going to get attention to the film, obviously. So I think there might be something, maybe, and I have no idea, that may be coming from that to maybe pique people's interest aside from other things and get people interested. So I'm still holding out hope that there would be something that, like a secondary trailer that would come through from San Diego Comic-Con and maybe some of those panels there. But it's still up to them, and they know what they're doing. This is Disney, folks. They're masters of marketing and such. So we'll get something sooner or later.
I think so, and I think it's fair. I was certainly disappointed. I wasn't like in full blown fan outrage or anything like that, but I was disappointed because I wanted that trailer. We're months away from the actual film, and I think it would have been nice, but it's their prerogative to do so, and I don't begrudge them for that. I don't think it's a negative thing. It's a choice, and as time moves along, we'll see what's going to happen. I think a lot of people expected a title for episode 8. We didn't get that, and quite honestly, here's how I sort of made peace with it and how it makes sense to me. When you are at Celebration, you really don't need to add a lot of bells and whistles because it's already built in, but when you do stuff later, and you kind of spread it out and just have a random Wednesday or Thursday where there are reveals about different things like a trailer or what have you, like when Entertainment Weekly did their thing a few weeks ago about Rogue One. That's just a way to keep the light burning throughout. Yeah,
it's good you mentioned that because, we've had some debates online too, of talking about the intro crawl as well. These classic things we come to expect. It. I'll throw this towards you, Dan, and I was thinking about this. We talked about this earlier. Rogue One wasn't necessarily on our radar in a sense. I mean, it was, but it wasn't like, it wasn't an episode 8 or episode 9 in a sense. It's kind of, oh, cool. We're looking forward to it, and obviously we'll see it multiple times, but it wasn't necessarily. But then that trailer dropped, and we're like, wow, this is not what we expected. How do you feel about this information we've got so far from the weekend? Does that kind of keep the hype going for you, or does it get you more excited or less excited? What have you?
I don't know. I like that question. I'm not sure. I feel I don't really know how to say that. I'm super pumped still. The Rebels thing took my breath away more, which we'll get to that in our next story. But I'm pumped. I wanted more. So I guess the fact that I want more and I didn't get more, and I'm a little disappointed in that, I guess that tells me that subconsciously and consciously I'm excited. Do you know what I mean? It's hard to put into words. How eloquent of me to state it so beautifully on a podcast, right? What about you? More or less?
I'd say I'm a little bit more, only because it's coming a little more real now. But 6 months out the release, and I get to know these characters a little more just through these little interpretations, and seeing the actors talk about it obviously gets you excited. I remember standing up on the stage at Celebration. The actors are talking about their characters and such, and it got me really excited. And you can see how much fun they're having, and it's just like, wow, this is real. We're getting Star Wars movies, more Star Wars movies. And of course, there's more releases and such coming out in Star Wars saga, and it's almost like a dream in a sense too. You got to slap yourself a little bit sometimes and think, oh man, we're getting so much great stuff. And to have this little peak of interest here and there, like you said, I think it's fun to have it on a reveal on a random Wednesday in the afternoon, and obviously, tweet about it or talk about it on a group chat or something. And it gets people talking, get people, getting the movement kind of in place to be able to, get ready for the movie, I guess.
Well, let me ask you this, and I was thinking about this after the sizzle reel was shown again for the third time. Mm-hmm. If you and I were at Celebration and we decided we wanted to stay up all night and be in the room for this panel, and that's what you were given, would you have been happy that you stayed up all night, or would you be a little disgruntled?
That's a good question.
It's hard to answer, too.
It is.
If we weren't in the room, I'm sure the energy in the room is just incredibly palpable.
Well, I just think back to Anaheim and how much fun I had. I can't really think of a moment that I was like, oh, this is not where I want to be right now. It's not necessarily just about, I didn't get the content I wanted, or I didn't get to hear, a reveal that I was looking forward to. We'll get there. It's this instant gratification feeling of wanting it more and more and more. But I think, like I said, that you have the energy in the room. You have a little bit extra. You're sharing the same, essence of the folks that are involved with the film. There's fans all around you. There's friends all around you. I would really take that. And enjoy this little reel and have that memory. I'm really trying to put myself in place of like making those memories versus trying to capture a thing and show it to everyone. Look at my thing type thing. So it's more of like capturing those memories and having those on display and be able to cherish those for as time goes on.
Yeah, and you can't. We also can't talk about this without mentioning how amazing Gwendolyn Christie was.
Yeah,
as the host, she was
cool.
She was excellent.
Yeah, too. And I didn't get to watch a whole lot of it that you may have seen, but I got to watch some of the stuff that Warwick Davis had done. And I guess I hadn't seen him as a host before. And I'm like, he did wonderful. He's such a great guy.
Oh, he's funny.
He has awesome. He is very funny. He had awesome questions. He was. We'll get to this too. He's interviewing Dave Filoni in the Rebels panel. But I think it was cool to see that. But I also wanted a little bit of shout out to Amy Radcliffe. Obviously, following vicariously through her, all her fun she had on the show, behind the stage show. And I don't know. I'd be passed out just because all the fun things that she gets to experience and the memories she gets to make there. It's kudos to her for doing such a wonderful job and having so many wonderful things happen and be involved with. For our next news story, another huge piece of information coming out of the Rebels panel from Star Wars Celebration Europe. they dropped a pretty big trailer, I guess. And Dan, we'll go through some things here.
You think?
Yeah, and obviously a lot of new things coming out from this. A lot about Ahsoka, and I kind of heard continuing adventures, and a lot of the other aspects of Rebels we don't necessarily get to see a whole lot of in season 2 and such. But it looks like it's going to really ramp up here for season 3. And just I think back to when I was watching kind of this panel. I was thinking of the panel we saw in Anaheim, and speaking to Freddie on our show, just his excitement about it, and he's like, "Oh, you guys just wait, you just wait, something's gonna happen," and I was like, what could be even better for season 3? What could they do to kind of outdo themselves in a sense? And they definitely do that, Dan.
Yeah, I want to talk about the big reveal, and
Sure.
we'll get to that very soon, but. Right off the bat, there was some questions about, was Ahsoka alive? Did she survive?
Yeah.
We know what Freddie said. He said, she's definitely alive. You saw it right in front of your face. But that wasn't the official response, and we still don't have a direct one. But he said, I'm not going to say exactly, but you might not have seen the end of Ahsoka Tano. And he talks about the fact that he and Lucas were planning Ahsoka's ending for 10 years, and Filoni was concerned he wouldn't be able to do it. But then the Rebels opportunity came up. He jumps at that. And, of course, we're going to have the Ahsoka novel coming out. And we actually got to see the cover. What do you think of that cover, by the way?
It's great. It's really unique because it's not necessarily the Star Wars look and feel, I guess. It feels to me like kind of like it's very sci-fi looking.
Yeah.
And if you didn't know, like if you just kind of took, cover up the Star Wars logo right there, I'd be like, whoa, this is a really interesting looking sci-fi book. I guess it seems obvious to come out with something like this. It also seems the same in vein of Dark Disciple that was released almost at the same time last year.
True.
And I would hope it'd be like that because I really enjoyed that book. And of course, Dave Filoni's pet project. So it's pretty cool.
It was very cool. Speaking of very cool, Kanan's got a beard.
It's so funny because, and I will say this too, it's funny how that kind of came up. You text me about, the Rebels panel's up and live on the live stream. I was like, let me check this out. So I got on my computer and got up there, and it was Dave Filoni talking and such, and I missed the trailer, and I was like, oh man, this kind of stinks. So shortly after that panel ended, they had the link come up, and you sent it to me, and I watched it, and like that first like frame was almost Freddy, but it's Kanan with his beard, and I paused it and I was like, oh my gosh, I had to tweet out that Freddy should grow a beard himself, just in inspiration to Kanan there. It's so much fun. I love to see these characters progress, if you will.
Yeah.
And
I will.
Them, you will. And
yes.
It's cool. Like I noticed obviously they're focusing on a lot of what's going to happen next, and some big moments here. Should we go into that next, or?
Well, I do want to bring up Kanan's mask that he's wearing.
Yeah.
I run attached to the Jedi Temple Guard mask, which I didn't know that he was going to wear that perpetually. But the quote they have on StarWars.com that Brian Young added about this panel was, the markings on Kanan's new mask are reminiscent of Captain Rex's to show that he's learned to see through Rex's eyes. And I love that.
Yeah, that's something that Dave had said on the panel there. And
yeah,
I thought that was so cool from, obviously back from season 2, them kind of not seeing eye to eye and such, but yet over time, obviously, you can see that they have grown in friendship and grown to trust one another. I think that's such a cool way to do that. I mean, we talked about that way back, I think with Freddie, I think them not getting along and obviously not trusting each other, and more so Kanan, I think. But just for him to make this shift in his mindset and taking to a very physical level is really unique and very great way to put it.
Well, and he's not the only character to go through a change. Ezra looks dramatically different. He's got his haircut.
He gets a haircut and grows some hair.
Yeah, it's almost like when Friends was popular, and every time there's a new season, they had a new haircut.
And Rachel. Yeah,
there you go. Yeah. But he just looks so much older. Like, I think it's neat that they age the characters in the off season, if that's how we could describe it, I guess. And that was neat. He has a green lightsaber now. The big thing that stood out to me about Ezra in the clips was that when Ezra was shooting, it wasn't stunning where it was a red blaster. He was killing. Did you notice that?
I did not notice that.
He always stunned until season 3.
Wow. And the other thing, too, about they had that little clip that came out.
Not an accident either, because he's got the whole Sith holocron thing, which apparently they're very aware, based on the trailer, that he has it, and they're not insisting that he get rid of it. I'm not quite sure I understand that. Maybe it's just more of they want him to give it willingly instead of forcibly taking it from him, which I don't know why they would do that anyway.
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm excited to see what happens. But you mentioned him blasting people and using a green lightsaber. We see that in a short clip online, and he seems very, very Kanan-like. Season 1 Kanan, where he's reckless, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he just reckless abandon, but very controlled recklessness.
Yeah.
He didn't seem like he's not the Ezra that we met in season 1. That's for sure. He's changed a lot, but there's a lot of aggression there. And it ties into Darth Maul, which clearly he's going to be a major factor. Dave Filoni and Sam Witwer had a fun time teasing each other on the panel with that. But let's talk about the biggest news. To me, this was the biggest pow, the Kung Fu pow to the forehead of awesome of Celebration London. And it was
definitely the reveal of Grand Admiral Thrawn.
That's right.
Oh my gosh, I didn't.
I'm happy.
That.
I got to send you that one. I was happy I got to break that one.
Yeah, you got me one up in the game of get it one another on the text, but it's something that I think fans have been clamoring for such a long time. We thought we'd get it kind of in Rogue One. We thought we'd get it in different aspects of Star Wars, and they're always kind of waiting on the cusp. But this shows so much promise, I think, in Star Wars moving forward and fandom. I think it's so cool to be able to dig into the Legends line and pick out things that just are working, that they want to keep a canon. And I think it's a kudos to fans, too, for being that voice. And being able to share their love for characters, and want to see them continue on in other aspects, and it's just I'm excited about it because I want to learn more. I want to see what this is like, and obviously they put out a reveal too that we talk about books, that Timothy Zahn is writing another book directly for Grand Admiral Thrawn. I think that's I don't know. It's just so. It's almost like it's almost like a dream. Man. Yeah, it's so cool.
Kerry Hart, who's in charge of the story group for all intents and purposes, and Dave Filoni are apparently huge fans of Thrawn, and they pitched the idea, and they really wanted to make it happen. He's obviously someone that's arguably the most popular character to come out of the Legends line, besides Mara Jade, and when they showed the close-up and they were doing that and he turned around, I don't really know what I expected. I thought it might be Thrawn, but I also thought it might be the director from Rogue One. I thought he was going to be directly in that too. That cool. And I'm not going to say I was disappointed because when I saw Thrawn, I was just like, wow, they're doing it. I actually thought, wow, they are doing this. But it would have been cool to see Krennic in this, but maybe he will be. I guess it doesn't really matter. It's its own thing. And they're taking that in the direction that they're going to take it in. I think what hit me even more than seeing Thrawn was showing the interview with Timothy Zahn, and he was in his office, and he said, I'm writing my new book right now, Thrawn. And I thought, what? Wait, what? Did he just say he's writing a Thrawn book? And then all of a sudden, that quick interview was over, and they showed the cover. And that was a screenshot that I sent to you because I thought, wow. I mean, I think that made me as excited, if not more, that he's going to be in literature form. Not that I'm not going to go crazy over seeing him animated, because he's officially canon now, and that's a beautiful thing to be sure. But my goodness, Grand Admiral Thrawn is back, and I heard your Vanessa Marshall, who's of course Hera Syndulla, saying Grand Admiral Thrawn, and apparently he's going to be really a danger to the Rebels crew, and man, we're in for some fun.
Well, it's interesting too. This reveal is huge. Darth Maul was a big reveal that was huge, and we look back at season 2. And Vader was a big reveal, So these big, huge baddies are kind of coming out, and it's almost like, do you feel like Thrawn kind of trumps Vader in a sense, in this essence?
I think the opposite. I think that was an amazing, wonderful reveal, and it completely took my breath away. But nothing, I don't think anything could take the place of Vader and the lightsaber dueling Kanan and Ezra so handily with James Earl Jones as the bombastic voice of the most fearsome Sith. I mean, I don't think anything could top that, so I don't know how they could have. But they certainly gave it a terrific try because, Vader's the ultimate. He's the alpha. But Thrawn's probably the alpha of the Legends line, and now that he's canon, and the impact, the 1-2 punch of that with him in a brand new novel written by Timothy Zahn, and that's amazing.
It really is interesting. Man, there's so many things to think about and talk about, and it's so cool to be able to see this come to play out, because this is a new Thrawn. This isn't the Legends Thrawn. This is a canon Thrawn that we're going to see, and we don't know. Obviously, we don't know anything about him. Some things that his obviously he's a good tactician, things like that. But I think it'd be cool to kind of explore him all over again.
And it's also nice to know that Timothy Zahn was working with Filoni to create this character, and Dave said it was important to him that since Timothy Zahn created the Admiral, that he liked what they were going and that he had direct input to the character. So another wonderful example of how Dave has taken the torch from George Lucas or Timothy Zahn or whoever, and he's got such an amazing vision. By the way, did you see that image of him on the set of Episode 8? That was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I'd see that. That was very nice.
Yeah, he's a rock star. I think we should get him on the show sometime.
I'd love to have him on the show.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I would too.
One more thought about Thrawn, and then we'll maybe let it be. We see Tarkin kind of introducing a new character as well.
Yeah.
But, Tarkin's obviously a force in himself, too, a tactician and such, and we see that in his book, Tarkin, actually. And it'd be interesting to see how he relates to Thrawn. These two maybe working together, maybe. I don't know. There's so many things that would be interesting to come out. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Well, you mentioned Tarkin. Not only is Stephen Stanton back, but James Luceno is going to write Catalyst, a Rogue One novel.
Yep. Yeah.
And that, point. Yeah. Anytime James Luceno writes Star Wars, we're excited. That's right. That's pretty great. And the only other thing we should probably say is that the Darksaber's back and Sabine is holding it.
Yeah, that was another big, huge thing about this trailer was Sabine was all over the place.
And the Bendu.
Yeah. Well, the Bendu, yeah. Oh, my gosh.
Tom Baker is the voice. And that was something that I remember reading about the history of Star Wars. And George Lucas's earliest drafts, the Bendu was an important part of the creation of the Force, and obviously it was cut from the final draft of A New Hope. But he's not good and he's not bad. He's somewhere in the middle of the Force. He's the center. Yeah. That could maybe sort of help us out with this whole balance thing.
Well, even the Grey Jedi and where that kind of lands, where it's that mystery. Oh man, it's so good.
All right, so before we move on, any other things you want to talk about at Celebration?
Yeah, I didn't get to tune in a whole lot about the live stream, but I did get a couple chances to. One was with Mark Hamill being on the Star Wars stage. They had Andy Gutierrez was hosting that, and it was cool to see Mark kind of step out and. I guess I don't think he was officially supposed to do that, but I think he was answering some questions from the audience and such.
He's like holding court, like putting on a stand-up routine.
Well, that's the way he does things, man. That's
cool.
I think it's cool that he does kind of off-the-cuff stuff like that with fans, and but his knowledge is so steeped with Star Wars and the behind-the-scenes stories with everything. I think it's so cool. So much fun.
It was really fun. The Ahsoka panel, it was pretty neat to know that there was going to be, first of all, there was a reveal of Funko Pop Ahsoka from Hot Topic.
That was cool.
Which looks neat. Our sponsor, Topps Digital, had a chase series for Dave Filoni's original creations of Ahsoka.
Yeah.
I got 7 of them.
I ended up getting 7 as well. Yeah,
it's really that 8th one was just too tricky.
Yeah, well, that's true.
But it was a really, really cool thing. There are a lot of sketches and things like that. Apparently, there's quite a bit more story of Ahsoka that was revealed. There was hints to her falling for a bounty hunter. A lot of cool stuff. Maybe some of this is going to be in the actual novel that's going to come out soon. So we're looking forward to reading that in the next few months. You mentioned earlier about how awesome Amy was. Amy was great. It was just so awesome to have someone who's such a good friend of our show, and just she's family. She's Coffee with Kenobi family. She's co-host of Lattes with Leia, and they were the first. Both Lattes with Leia and Full of Sith were the first podcast on the Celebration Europe podcast stage. So the tradition of us going first on the podcast stage continues. That was so cool, and she did such a marvelous job at the end. She came out with Warwick Davis and David Collins, as we talked about, and she seemed so calm. I know she was nervous before, and she just did a great job. So we're looking forward to speaking with her about her experiences. And it just seemed like you said, to live vicariously through her, as much as she is such a pioneer for bringing fans into Star Wars and making them feel connected to the universe. So hats off to her for sure. You mentioned Andy being surprised by Carrie Fisher on the Star Wars show set. That was really, really great.
Fun.
Just a lot of fun things. It made me, I'm not going to say it made me miss going to Celebration more or less, because I already knew I wanted to go. Let's just say that I'm quite fired up for Celebration Orlando.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. And seeing all that stuff and kind of reliving that, I do think back to Anaheim and doing that and celebrating with our friends, and obviously looking forward to the future in Orlando and be able to just do it all over again. Obviously, we're locked in. We got our tickets. We've got our hotel, and we're excited to do it. We're almost a little less than 9 months, maybe.
Yeah.
So coming quick and fast, and looking forward to that, and reporting all those fun things, and I don't know, it's cool to see that. I'm really glad. I think as a whole, I think the whole thing was a success. It's fun to see it done over the across the pond there, and see those folks interact, and I think it's cool to see people ask questions and just get the fans involved and such. It's such a great thing to do, and it is a great way to explore fandom.
Hello there again, my Coffee with Kenobi friends. This is Nick DiCo, your friendly Force ghost, guiding you to all things Star Wars video games and our favorite galaxy far, far away. So let's talk about July. Our July update centers around Star Wars Celebration Europe that just wrapped up in London earlier this month, and it had a lot of great Jawa vibes, some hearty Wookiee backslaps, and for those of us that were still here across the pond, we appreciate all your guys' hard work that went over there to give us some great reports. And some of those great reports came straight from Twitter, some of them came straight from the live stream, but let's talk about what we learned about Star Wars video games from London. What this is going to center around is mainly the panel that was moderated by Warwick Davis, that was around the EA staffers, talking about most of their updates that were coming out for 2016, and they were plentiful. The main ones revolving around Battlefront, but I'll get to that in a second. First, let's talk about their mobile game release updates for the Galaxy of Heroes game that I've talked about this on the podcast before. They have a couple new updates coming out, some good ones around raids. For those of you that play, right now you can raid as a guild against the Rancor in Jabba's Palace, but you will actually get a chance to now raid against the Separatist army and battling General Grievous, some droids, and what looks like to be the AAT tank. So that will be really fun for those of us that play the game regularly to get something new involved in this. Coming down the line will be some Rogue One characters, villains and heroes later this year when we see Rogue One release. I wouldn't expect anything in the summer or fall around those characters, though. As we know, Disney is very tight-lipped about details about any upcoming Star Wars movie. However, if you were lucky enough to watch the live stream, you might have noticed a little sneak peek about somebody's favorite droid, R2-D2. That's my favorite droid coming to the game. Oh, cannot wait. I will spend all the credits in the universe for him to play. Hopefully, I won't have to, and I can just grind it out. Anyway, moving on, let's talk about Star Wars Old Republic. It is actually in its 5th year. Actually, I did not know that. I feel like it was just released a couple of years ago. But what this means is, for those of you that have thought about playing this PC game, to really jumping in and experiencing a new type of Star Wars experience for yourself, you actually get to play their first chapter of Knights of the Fallen Empire for free. So right now currently has, I think, 15 chapters out, and you'll be able to start your whole experience with a freebie, which is really great for those of us that may just want to dip your toes into a different kind of Star Wars game before buying the whole thing. And what is going to be coming out of this, since it is their 5th year for the Old Republic for this game, is going to be a new expansion pack. I guess that's really exciting for those of you that are playing the game currently and have perhaps experienced most of the character-driven storyline for Knights of the Fallen Empire. The new expansion pack will be called Knights of the Eternal Throne. It should come out later this year, but not many more details have been released around the release date or the characters or storyline that's being played. So those are the two smaller kind of updates. The biggest thing around the EA panel is around Battlefront, and we learned about both the third expansion pack and the fourth expansion pack, both coming out later this year. So let's talk about number 3. Number 3 will be released in the fall, and it's going to be about the Death Star, something that all of us have pretty much known about coming up. It's been rumored that was going to be the case, but has been made official that the Death Star, space battles, and some of our favorite characters are going to be new heroes and villains in this game. So what does that mean? That means we actually get to have some trench runs, we get to have some space combat, and we get to have Chewbacca. Chewbacca will be the new hero for Star Wars Battlefront, which is going to be fantastic. And then our villain will be the garbage tractor space monster thing. Just kidding. It's not going to be that at all. It's going to be Bosk. So another character that, as we started getting the bounty hunters and Greedo and Dengar, folks were clamoring on the internet about having, we're going to get a chance to actually see in person and in the game. So very exciting stuff coming out of Battlefront around that update. The other exciting thing will be the space combat and will be the offline gameplay. The space combat revolving around the expansion pack 3 around the Death Star. And since it is taking place around A New Hope's Death Star, the first one, we're going to have, well, what it looks like from a screen grab, Vader's TIE Advance perhaps be a playable starship, which will be really fun. Currently, you can only play the Millennium Falcon or as Slave 1. So this means that perhaps since we're getting a new villain space starfighter, we might get a new hero starfighter. My money would be on Red 5. I can see that being the case if they're going to play off of the two main characters in A New Hope in the space battle, Vader versus Luke. So I would put money on that if I was a gambling man. Again, I am not, but I would if I was one. So the other part of that is your trench run, which is indicative of a Vader versus Luke battle, and that has been confirmed in terms of a multi-stage gameplay. So for those of you that might have played the original Star Wars arcade game in the arcades 10, 15, 20 years ago now, maybe. And for those of you that don't know what an arcade is, just Google it. A multi-stage gameplay is going to be where you have to achieve certain objectives to get to the next stage. And the only way you can get to the end, part of the last Death Star, the actual trench run, is completing a certain amount of maybe TIE fighter kills and getting around Death Star turrets for a certain period of time. That's my assumption of what it's going to be. But I look forward to seeing this whole expansion pack released in the fall. If you're currently not a season pass holder for this game and you're thinking about it, it might just be a good idea to bite the bullet or bite the laser blaster and purchase it and get ready for the early release for that, because it always comes out 2 weeks before everybody else gets a chance to play it. However, what is free for those of you that are playing Battlefront right now, and maybe folks that have been holding off on playing the largest console game for the Star Wars universe as it stands, might be the offline gameplay, and you're not really interested in playing folks online and signing up and paying extra to sign up to a server. We're going to have offline gameplay for skirmishing. Skirmishes around Walker Assault and Fighter Squadron, which you'll get to just boot up your system, put the game in, and go ahead and play the computer, play the AI to your heart's content. So that's currently allowable for these missions that the game has, but not in a kind of storyline, mission-driven mode, which is more than just having the same characters come at you in the same time. But Walker Assault will allow you to actually play towards an objective, taking or down a AT-AT or protecting one. So that will be a little different for folks that are used to not being able to do that, but only against other online players. So it's fantastic. Perhaps we'll get some more storyline out of the skirmish assaults, which would be fantastic as well. So really excited for all this new stuff coming out. But finally, for Battlefront is going to be Expansion Pack 4, which is going to come out in December. And for those of you that haven't guessed yet, it's going to be around Rogue One for sure. And it's going to be called Rogue One Scarif, which means it takes place on the Paradise Planet that all of us want to just kick back, enjoy, and relax and watch stormtroopers run through water. And you're going to be allowed to play as Jyn or as Krennic. So we already know the hero and the villain for this game. Not much more about that. There wasn't any screen captures or any videos of what the game's going to look like. We just know that the hero and the villain. And it's been rumored that Krennic's special ability will have to do with his cape, some sort of special cape ability. also just kidding, just kidding. But finally, before I wrap up this podcast, I want to talk about what I thought was missing from the EA panel and from video games in terms of the celebration in Europe. Not much, really. I'm very pleased with everything we heard coming out of London, and I can't wait to see this stuff come to fruition in the fall and the winter. But I was disappointed that we didn't hear anything from Disney or perhaps even from EA about Infinity being canceled, about perhaps some ideas of how to continue that series, or maybe a way to capture what fans have really been upset about. Perhaps not a surprise that didn't occur, but would have been nice to perhaps see some information coming out from Disney about here's what we plan to do, perhaps to continue some of the stuff for fans that have really expressed an outrage or some really upset feelings around having canceled that series. And the other aspect that I really missed on, perhaps this was actually happening in London. So if you were there and you saw the Battlefront VR, exhibition, and because as it looked like there was supposed to be something going on around this at Celebration, please let me know if you got a chance to see that game in action or see some updates around it. But there really wasn't any coverage for that for those of us that didn't get a chance to attend. And so doing a quick internet search and looking up some other articles from different websites, I did find just one article about what we hope this game would be about. Hopefully Battlefront's virtual reality would be about the Death Star, another Death Star trench run. But that's really it. So a little disappointed that we didn't learn more for that aspect of the Battlefront virtual reality saga. That being said, Lucasfilm did say they were going to release Trials on Tatooine for Steam, which should be released already, if not in the near future, before the end of July. And that will be their first VR experiment into the world of video games. And it will signal a strong presence for the company still in this market, as lots of times folks kind of question, will Lucasfilm kind of step back from creative activities and just let the companies really come with their own ideas? But it shows that Lucasfilm is doubling down, and Disney doubling down on this idea of we're going to direct the market a little bit and we're going to take some risks. I think they took a huge risk with the Infinity kind of series and it paid off, but apparently not enough. And hopefully, though, the virtual reality experience they're going to promote through Trials on Tatooine will pay off in big ways, and they'll ask EA to go further with Battlefront and VR. So, but that being said, that is everything for July, my friends. It's been a crazy month. So happy to see this stuff coming out of Celebration Europe, as I hope you are. And as always, may the Force be with you.
Han Solo, Rebel Soldier, Lando Calrissian, and Bespin Guard, each sold separately. From Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back Collection, new from Kenner.
Looking? Found someone you have, I would say,
Your lightsabers will make a fine addition to my collection.
For our first collector's news story, we already hinted around to this, but the Jyn Erso Rogue One figure that was revealed on the very first panel for the Black Series, what'd you think of that?
It's cool. It's very unique. She's not wearing a necessarily uniform, but there are definitely scenes we've seen from the trailer. Kind of a hooded garment. Yet she's got the jacket. These Star Wars jackets, man. I don't. Who's making these? It's my best friend, I think. But it's cool to see her reveal this figure, Felicity Jones, and kind of get excited. It's one of those dreams come true that you're an actor.
She was so happy.
To see yourself reincarnated into an action figure, and be able to hold that up and be like, oh, this is me, this is my character, this is really cool. It's one of those, I think those dreams come true for actors to see that.
And Hasbro sent us, like I said, high resolution images.
Yeah.
And wow, they look so cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say I want to say these look a little bit different than the previous Black Series 6-inch. These seem like more detailed. Does that seem right? I mean, these just unique.
No, I agree. I mean, it looks. I mean, for some reason, when they were trying to have an action figure of the female gender, they don't always as complimentary as they should be. It's almost like they can't quite sculpt them as beautifully as they should. And I think they're a little bit closer here with Jenner. So it's a gorgeous looking figure. I mean, it's hard to match Felicity Jones, obviously, but it's certainly a step in the right direction.
Well, that's a good point, Dan. It's I think back to the Princess Leia figure that came out last year. from Jabba the Hutt's palace, 6-inch, and it was just so, I don't know, just bad. I don't know, we've talked about it before, and it wasn't necessarily well done. I mean, I think for this figure to, and also I want to say the Rey figure was well done as well. I mean, it's capturing the likeness of the actor, but also the essence of the character.
Good point.
You know, it's not necessarily trying to build into something that's not necessarily there, but also, you know, these are action figures, so they're looked to be able to on display, you know, played with, things like that. So it's something very cool. I'll put it out to you. I mean, I hadn't necessarily thought about buying a whole lot of Rogue One stuff other than, you know, obviously my director Krennic character.
Sure.
And I'll definitely get him. It just seems like he's really cool. But it's cool to see this. Are you interested in getting this at all?
What do you think?
I'd say yes.
Yeah, you got that, brother. I'm very excited about that. Are you kidding me? It looks cool. And I thought for about a New York minute that maybe I'm not going to get as much Rogue One stuff. Maybe I'll just give myself sort of a break and save up for episode 8. But then I started thinking about X-Wings.
Oh, yeah.
And seeing this. And I thought, well, I'll just be, you know, I didn't buy every figure from The Force Awakens. I still can't find The Force Awakens 3 3/4-inch Han Solo. That's the one that, by the way, if any of our listeners find it and they want to send it my way, I'd be happy to reimburse them. That would be pretty awesome. And what good is a podcasting platform if you can't request action figures, right?
That's right. That's how we started in the first place.
It's real. Yeah. It's real. That's right. Now, you know, I don't want any handouts. I just want to find it. The Walmart where I live, we've had the same figures for so long. I don't think they've stocked them at all. But anyway, I'm definitely going to get this one. I'm excited about it.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of stocking shelves, do you think we'll find this figure? You know, we had such a hard time finding Rey figures. Obviously, it was a big movement, I think, in the fan community. Here we go again. You know, it's a brand new character. She's female. She's popular. People are going to want to pick this up and take it home. And I know that when we were on Force Friday, we had some issues finding some folks. Finding some action figures and stuff we were looking for, and had to hunt around a lot for stuff. So is this going to be one that are going to keep stocked on shelves?
I do. I think this one will be a little bit easier. I think they've learned, and clearly she's the face of it. Rey, they were sort of...
Good point.
They didn't quite reveal how main of a character she was going to be, although it seemed fairly obvious. So this, I think she's going to be... I think she's going to be around.
Yeah, good point. I like that.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, I definitely think so. For next bit of collector's news, we've got some cool publishing stuff coming out from Abrams Books, and there's a kind of
all the books,
barrage,
really.
a barrage of all kinds of Rogue One stuff, and it's funny because, like, again, like for this film, I hadn't been necessarily on my radar, but like obviously this stuff would come out in vein of, you know, these. We've got some visual guides, we've got some sticker books and things like that. We've got looks like making your own U-wing. That say U-wing? Wow. Like the letter U as in...
Like in Dallas?
Going home?
Yeah, it says U-wing. Yeah, it does.
Is that new?
I never noticed that, yeah.
Oh, wow. There we go. We found something new. A U-ring. U-ring. It's hard to say.
A U-wing, like an X-wing.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it now. But yeah, obviously a lot of the stuff is character-based. There's some classic Star Wars stuff in here as well, some Luke Skywalker stuff, and Han Solo and Vader. It looks like some designs of maybe upcoming publications. But then we've got kind of like a visual dictionary of Star Wars complete locations, which it's kind of like a cutaway, like I said.
Which, by the way, we were the first show to reveal that was coming out when we had Kemp Remillard and Jason Fry on. That's when right. We talked about the complete locations or the complete vehicles. So that was pretty cool to see the cover for that.
And then we've got a Star Wars year-by-year visual history.
But you and I already have.
Yeah, we just got that. It's pretty cool. I haven't dug into it yet, but it's heavy.
It comes out in early September. Man, that's going to be a book that people are going to want to run. Run to get. I mean, it's amazing. There was an original one in 2010, but Pablo's added a bunch to it, and is it incredible stuff. Speaking of Pablo, we got to see the cover for the Rogue One Ultimate Visual Guide that we knew he was writing. And how about that image with the Black Death Trooper with the green light reflecting in the goggles? Pretty spectacular.
I always think too when they reveal some of the stuff, like they don't want to reveal too much, right? So it's like, what are we going to show in this image? But let's just show something cool and new. And this is it, man. This is one of the things that stuck out to me from the trailer. Some of those images we've seen floating around the internet as far as official stuff. There's these dark troopers or shadow troopers or whatever they are. But it's pretty cool to see that. And obviously, a lot of stuff is like very reminiscent of Star Wars: A New Hope with the Death Star. A lot of that type stuff too. It's cool, but something interesting too. Maybe you tweeted out about this Star Wars Wild Space. It looks like it's kind of a young adult fiction series, and I hadn't seen any of this, but my oldest son devours books, if you will, and this is something that I would definitely check out for him. I
don't even know what it's about.
Neither do I. It's new to me. I saw you.
I didn't even realize it was canonical. Yeah, Matt was talking about it. Yeah, this is, and I was like, whoa.
That is.
I guess I haven't read everything.
And then, of course, we talked about the Ahsoka coming out.
James Luceno.
Yep, James Luceno's book. And then we've got a kind of a barrage, again, like I said, of follow-up books. We have the Star Wars Topps book, Return of the Jedi, of the original Topps trading card series. It's their Volume 3. Looks like some sketches and modeling kit for R2-D2. It's a Force Awakens books. Another Jedi Academy book, and various different backstories and such from our favorite characters, including Darth Vader and Princess Leia. Kind of some of those golden board books that my daughter loves. She's got
they're
all
fun.
those. But Dan,
a lot of good books coming out, man.
Yeah. What are you looking forward to the most?
The novels and the anything that Pablo writes, because I like the visual guides with the behind the scenes stuff and sort of giving you a little more about the tapestry of each character.
Sure.
And I love Life Debt. I'm going to have the review up pretty soon on the site.
Sweet.
And we've got Life Debt came out, then the Ahsoka novel, and then Catalyst, and then the conclusion of the Aftermath trilogy. So we've got a lot of great novels coming out from Star Wars. From DK Publishing, from Del Rey, just so much cool Star Wars to get our hands on. I'm pumped, man.
Very cool. If Pablo was to write something on a napkin, would that be something you read too? And
if it was his autograph,
there you go. Autograph on a napkin. Very good.
He'd autograph my Empire Strikes Back napkin from 1980.
Would that be a tattoo you get? Pablo's autograph.
There you go. I'm sure that would be really easy to explain. 30 years later.
Very good.
Our next bit of collector news is stepping away from Celebration, but actually not really. And the reason that I phrase it like that is at Anaheim, we gave away Coffee with Kenobi mugs with our actual orange logo, the award-winning logo that we talked about last month.
That's right.
For the T-shirt. And now T Public, the company that does the shirts for us, they started doing mugs. So you can get the Coffee with Kenobi mug with the actual show logo. I'm very excited about this. We've been wanting this for a long time.
Yeah, this is right up there. Like we talked about when we first started the show was, I think, T-shirts and mugs. Kind of just as those little, side pieces that if we ever got a chance, if ever was a thing that, we'd do something like that. And lo and behold, here we go. It's cool that this is something that T-Public is putting out. Obviously, it's the orange mug with our logo. And, you can sip and enjoy Coffee with Kenobi whenever you want. It's pretty great. I know a lot of folks have been asking about it, too.
Yeah, they have. And I was like, what, can we get the orange one that some people got at Celebration, or can we get your T-shirt on a mug? So now you can do that. There's also a travel mug option that T-Public offers. Yeah. That thing's pretty slick. It's like kind of a blown-up version of the logo. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's neat to see this, and I'd like to put together, let's say Coffee with Kenobi is great, and you like that. Maybe you like Lattes with Leia, or Comics with Kenobi, or some of the other folks on our podcasting family. I think we're going to try and arrange putting together a mug for them as well. So I think it'd be a really neat add-on as well. So I look for that in the future.
Yeah, let us know what you want to see. And also, by the way, they have laptop covers and notebooks with the logos. I mean, just sort of like things that they offer, and we didn't even know that they were going to do that. But hey, why not, right? If you are a huge Star Wars fan, and let's face it, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably are, And if you love collecting Star Wars, the Star Wars Card Trader app from Topps is for you.
The best part, the Star Wars Card Trader app features incredible images from the original trilogy, the prequels, the Clone Wars, Rebels, and The Force Awakens. Every era you love is included on the app.
It's easy and a lot of fun, too. Beloved characters, key scenes, and unforgettable moments are in every pack. Open the app every day and get free credits to spend on card packs from the Cantina, trade with your friends, and make new ones along the way as you continue to add to your Star Wars collection. And it's all free.
The variety makes it fun, too. So chase what you love. Some of the latest packs include poster series, classic comic book series, helmet variety packs, and so much more. There are even exclusive cards you can get by completing sets, as well as special inserts and even autograph opportunities. Don't worry about missing the cards you love either, as you sign up for notifications right on the app.
The Star Wars Digital Card Trader collecting app from Topps can be downloaded for free from iTunes or Google Play. Be sure to download the app and start your collection today.
The Star Wars Digital Card Trader app from Topps is available now. And remember, these are the cards you're looking for.
Luke, you're going to find that many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our own point of view.
I must be allowed to speak.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
Our topic for show number 56 is paradoxes in the Star Wars universe. So many of the great conversations in Star Wars are centered on paradoxical concepts, such as no attachments for the Jedi Order, the Sith speaking openly about their plans, and keeping balance by eliminating evil in the galaxy. And that's only a few of them. Joining us on this topic is Riley Blanton of the Star Wars Report. The popular podcast started back in April of 2011 and continues to bring warmth, passion, and great Star Wars coverage each and every week. Riley hosts their flagship show and is one of the nicest Star Wars fans you'll ever meet, with knowledge and energy you won't want to miss. We are thrilled to share a cup of coffee with him. Welcome to Coffee with Kenobi, Riley.
Dude, I'm so happy to talk to you. And, I'm not even going to lie. It happened, and I don't know how. But, as you're listening to this excellent program, Coffee with Kenobi, we're 7 hours different and on two sides of the planet. And yet we're here to nerd out about Star Wars, and I'm so excited to be here, man. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, thank you, my friend. I had such a ball on the Star Wars Report with you and your buddies, and it was great. And you and I have been talking about coming on the show probably since before Celebration Anaheim, so there's lots of Celebration to talk about and lots of Star Wars. But let's jump right into this with paradoxes in the Star Wars universe. You're an excellent person to have on for this because of the way you analyze and approach Star Wars, and you've just got a good mind anyway. So no attachments for the Jedi, Riley. What is that about?
It doesn't seem to work, does it? Right? It seems to be like a part of the Jedi code that people embrace, that the Order embraced so openly, but it seems to be like one of the many things that just simply doesn't work for them. It's I think a lot of the idea of the attachment for the Jedi Order, especially if you look at things like the way it's presented in Attack of the Clones, it's sort of this old monastic tradition more than it is anything else. And I don't know, it seems like Anakin's attachment is what kind of ruins it all. So in some ways, maybe they were right. But in other ways, it's hard for me to actually see that it made a difference one way or the other.
Sure, and I think almost that I wish the Jedi Temple, I wish Jocasta Nu had a thesaurus.
Oh, yes.
Jedi Temple, because you could have substituted attachment for obsession. Because almost like they want to eliminate, you can't eliminate compassion if you're supposed to be a peacekeeping force that is supposed to care about their fellow, human or Ithorian or what have you.
No, absolutely. Yeah, and pardon the noise, guys, in the background. I'm finding a little quiet spot here, and I hinted at it, but in beautiful Barcelona is actually where we're doing this. And I just want to take a moment while we continue this discussion. Here we go. Here's a nice spot. It's just to say it is so great to actually be able to have conversations like this with fans all over the world at any time. And I love that technology has brought us here. So seriously, thanks so much for having me on, man. And I can't wait to dig into it. And I can't help but you mentioned Jocasta Nu.
Yes.
And Dan, I'm on this adventurous European world tour right now. And it kind of goes to that whole monastic tradition of the Jedi, and I was at the Trinity Library in Dublin, Ireland, which is the exact it's the oldest library in Ireland, and that's still open today, and it's the exact replica of what George Lucas saw and decided to design the Jedi Temple Library. So I can't help but you mentioned the Castelnau, and that made me think of it.
And that wasn't an accident either, since we are Facebook friends. I saw you were. Yeah, we did allude to that, and we'll certainly hit on Celebration very soon. But while Riley's doing these amazing things, I went to Costco, so pretty cool. Not quite the same. Talk about a paradox.
Pardon the interruption. Let's carry on with today's topic.
No. I think that's an excellent moment to bring that up, because you've done some really, really cool things. And you're honest. So are the Sith. Now, Riley and the Sith are not paradoxes, because I suppose I should mention a paradox is two things that are existing at the exact same time, which have completely opposite effects, but seem to also be working at the same time. The classic example I give my students is jumbo shrimp. Right, that's the easy one to do. So
exactly.
So the Sith speak honestly and openly about their plans, and that seems to get a lot of airplay. How do you process that? Because I certainly have my own theories on that.
Well, it's the whole little truth makes the lie even greater. I think the greatest example of this that's best executed is Dooku's lie in Attack of the Clones, when he's like, the Sith Lord is in control of the Senate. That's my Dooku impression.
That's good.
But it's so true, because that is a tradition of the Sith. It's most clear in Attack of the Clones of all the films, if you ask me. But if you look at it's really first used in Return of the Jedi, in the way that the Emperor communicates with Darth Vader and Luke, and just a little grain of truth to tell them that your friends are doomed. An entire legion of my best troops. And so when it comes to a paradox, you would think it wouldn't work, but it does. But that's an element of mythology in Star Wars that's been around for a long time. It's not just Star Wars. The idea of the villain using grains of truth to, exactly in a paradox, actually affect change in the hero and tell a greater lie. That's that's an amazing moment. And that's the thing about Star Wars, especially the way the prequels tell the story. It really does help give us perspective on how I guess for lack of a better term, the technical truth isn't the same as the sort of moral truth. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. I can't help but think of the beginning of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, when he talks about the difference between fact and truth.
Yes, exactly. That's an excellent point. Yeah, no, that exactly that way.
Because, it gets, as I said, it gets a lot of publicity amongst the fan community for them being so open and honest and how they always tell the truth. But they, like you said, they sparse it out. It's very Old Testament, and there's not a lot of truth there. There are certain things they say, but the fact, deceit, there are sins of omission and commission, and the Sith are not giving you all the information. They're giving you certain stuff to kind of bait you, but it's very tricky, and they're excellent manipulators, and Palpatine is certainly the prime example, but Dooku is definitely the classic example. He's someone that arguably created an imbalance in the Force. So this is the other paradox we talk a lot about, and this is an interesting thing as well. And each one of these could easily be their own show. And if the time were no option, we'd have Riley on for each one, because it's very fun to talk to you. But bringing balance to the Force seems to indicate in the Star Wars universe that you eliminate evil. Now, how is that balance?
Yeah, that's an age-old debate right there. Like, especially when the Mortis trilogy aired, and that seemed to indicate a change in George Lucas's perspective on the issue, because throughout the original trilogy, the idea of restoring balance to the Force seems to be when, old Vader tosses the Emperor down the shaft and everybody lives happily ever after. But that doesn't seem like the idea of the old. This is the more or less Oriental version of a balance of equal, where evil equals good, and both have to exist for the world to carry on. And again, Dan, this gets really personal, because a lot of this is so interpretive in terms of the mythology of Star Wars. My personal view of it is that And I wrote about this back when the Mortis trilogy actually aired. But my view of it is that balance of the Force means a balance of good. But however, there is no, and again, this is entirely personal. I don't have any like backup of it. I don't have the George Lucas interview affirming Riley's opinion here. But for me, good is an ideal to strive towards, but it's something that no like galactic organization is going to be able to accomplish. And here's the thing about wielding power of any kind, any political power, personal power, force power. I think that one of the core messages of Star Wars is that power corrupts, and corrupts not in just the political sense, but in the sense of your soul. I think that's what corrupted Anakin Skywalker so much. It's not, a lot of people say, oh, it's just because Padme married him and he died. And one of the big criticisms of Revenge of the Sith is that, oh, Anakin went to the dark side because he fell in love with Padme. That's not true. Anakin went to the dark side because he fell in love with his own power. And so for me, I think that the balance means a balance of power. It doesn't mean like the good side necessarily wins. So I think that's why, as we're probably going to find out in the future Star Wars films, I'm sure there's a reason Luke Skywalker went into exile and didn't just start another Jedi Order to take over the galaxy and be in charge of all peace and justice, right? I think there's a reason, and I think that has very much to do with the idea of balance of the Force.
Yes, absolutely. Very well said. And I don't know the exact quote, but whether it's good or evil, some people may try to say, well, good is a point of view or things like that. But honestly, no matter what your belief, religious, otherwise, you really won't find too many different people who disagree on the fact that killing someone is wrong or taking someone's goods is wrong. So there are universal conceits, I think, there to those kind of ideologies. And to me, to speculate, bringing balance to the Force, I don't think you eliminate evil. I just think that Palpatine's existence made evil so much more powerful. Like they had tipped the scales in their own way. So what Luke did was eliminate the dramatic shift in it wasn't even anymore. And as the Force Awakens and Episode 8 and 9, come through in the next few years, maybe we'll see why the Force awakened and how that ties into Kylo Ren and Rey and who knows who else.
Oh, yes.
Because maybe Luke brought it the other direction. It's really, really hard to say at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
So last one, and I know this will be an excellent one as well, because you have a background in political ideologies and in just the study of politics and history anyway. So we've got war, we've got peace, we've got governments. In other words, the Republic to the Empire, and then the New Republic to the Resistance and the First Order. Why do the good guys keep making the same mistakes, Riley?
Well, you're going to have to define the mistakes. What are the mistakes they're making?
Well, evil keeps coming back and killing lots of people.
And you're blaming the good guys?
No.
No, I can't.
Not at all. Hey, it's early for me.
No. I know. I'm just giving you a hard time. No, it's true. It's true. You think that you'd have figured this whole thing out yet. But what's funny is that evidently, and this is not part of The Force Awakens, and with good reason. It's not trying to be a political film, so it doesn't want to explain the politics of the First Order, the Resistance, and the New Republic. But I find this stuff fascinating. So, like in a lot of the bonus material and the visual guide and stuff, learning about how, exactly, learning about how Leia's trying to warn the New Republic, hey, these guys aren't just going to park here out in the Outer Rim and do their own thing, but we need to actually do something about it and prepare for them to attack. And of course, no one listens to her, and I think that's something that I really hope we get more of that side of the story in Episode 8. But of course, Episode 7 was really mostly about the characters, so that was kind of cut out. But to answer your question about why do they keep making the same mistakes, it's because it's universal. Everyone always wants to believe the best. Everyone wanted to believe that World War I was the war to end all wars, that everyone would remember how horrible. But yet, within a matter of years, the world was at war again. And I think the sad, unfortunate reality, and as someone who studies political science, it's innately informed by human psychology and human sociology. And there are certain universal conflicts that always arise in humanity. And the same is true in the Star Wars universe, whether it's the First Order and the Resistance or the Old Republic and the Confederacy of Independent Systems, there's always an element of conflict driven from cultural reasons, which is always fascinating. But for me, what's most fascinating, especially in the world of Star Wars, and of course political reasons, but for me, it's really the mythos, the moral reasons. And I think that it can be easy and fun to parse the politics of it, right? And to say, well, this is technically why the Resistance couldn't really warn the New Republic, and this is why people don't take threats seriously, and this is why people forget war so easily. But honestly, when it comes to the mythology of Star Wars, I think it's mostly a moral tale, and I'm comfortable with seeing the surface story of good and evil, and that being the conflict, and then digging deeper. If that makes sense. I know that's a long kind of roundabout answer.
Well, that's the best kind.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're basically insinuating that it's allegorical in nature, which as a literature teacher, I certainly love.
Sure.
And may I also just say, and we'll certainly have to have you on again to talk about this as the rest of the saga fleshes out, but Barcelona has some excellent Wi-Fi.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm actually, believe it, I'm not even on Wi-Fi.
Really?
Like the number one best thing about traveling in Europe are cheap local SIM cards. Dude, I paid €5 for 5 gigs and a 30-day prepaid card. And here I am talking to you at an ungodly early hour in Central Time Zone. Dude, it's so much fun. So much fun.
It is. And if it makes you feel any better, I have 3 kids. So I'm almost always up at this time.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. Yeah.
So let's talk about Celebration London really quickly before we hit you with our 5 questions. What highlights, memories, what special things happened to you and around you at Celebration London?
Oh, so many. Too many. I just finished editing together my first ever full Celebration vlog. I'm doing the YouTube thing, kids.
Yes, you are.
So I just finished it. It's going to take forever to export and upload, but by the time this podcast is going up, hopefully it'll be at the youtube.com/Star Wars Report. But like that, literally the reason I say that is because you can't give the highlights. It's just there's so much. It was so much fun. It was the biggest celebration Europe ever by far. Everyone I talked to was talking about just the ridiculous crowds. But let me just give you three big takeaways that I had from this event. It was at the Excel Center, Central London. And the number one event was, of course, the Rogue One panel Friday. And everyone's seen the recaps, everyone's seen the live stream. But what you need to know is that when we were on the floor in the giant arena, and Gwendolyn Christie's hosting the panel, everyone's having such a good time. Everyone talks a little bit about their character. But yes, they showed us the exclusive sizzle reel. There were some interesting reveals in there, and I'm sure it'll be public very soon. But my big takeaway was the crowd reaction to that behind-the-scenes reel. Because when Felicity Jones' character said, when Jen Erso is sitting there, and what I'm now calling the Star Wars Black Hawk, I don't know what it is. I can't quite tell. I'm sure some of the people who've had more time to do the screen caps can. But she's just like hanging on to the top, and it looks like a Vietnam-era Black Hawk, like you're getting ready to take off. Mm-hmm. And she says, "May the Force be with us." The crowd roaring was incredible. Number 2 has to be the Star Wars Rebels premiere. And again, this is the kind of thing that a lot of you guys have seen seen the trailer, seen all the reveals. They did the screening. I'll just say it. Thrawn is incredible. It's amazing. Can't wait. It's everything you would hope for. But the important thing is actually the fact is, and I was talking to some Lucasfilm people actually, and they were just shocked at the reception, because the biggest crowd reaction and the biggest standing room only event wasn't Rogue One. It wasn't the future filmmakers with the cast of Episode 8 and of course Han Solo. It was Rebels. That was the thing. The crowd's reaction and the energy in the room was highest for Star Wars Rebels. Think about that.
That doesn't surprise me almost. It really gives you a lot of hope that there'll be a season 4 and then some.
Oh, I hope so. I'll be so sad. It was a great a great premiere. And of course, finally, number 3, you got to give props to the Future Filmmakers panel. Nothing really revealed. And I don't know have they put the stream of that up online yet, Dan?
I've seen little highlights and things like that, but let me check while you're musing. By the way, did you wait? So you waited in line for the Rogue One? How long did you wait in line for that?
Well, so for Rogue One, fortunately, it was kind of weird. We did, and you probably know this, Dan. We did have press access, but for everybody listening, what press access means is they hand you a media badge. But unless you're like, I don't know, IO9 or Slash Film or BBC or one of the big papers, you're not. It's very difficult to actually get wristbands, which I understand that. Like we're just a small Star Wars side. I was just happy to have that. So we hung out in the media area, and fortunately, they let us in around the time the line started getting in. So I got great seats. Bethany didn't get in until the next day, unfortunately, but for Rogue One, it was amazing. It was amazing. I apologize. I lost my train of thought. You were saying?
No. I just you were talking about the Future Filmmakers panel, and if that the live stream is on there yet.
Yes.
I don't see it on YouTube. I'm on there right now.
I heard they didn't stream it. I heard that's what I heard on the ground.
That is correct.
Okay,
there were Twitter
what you guys
updates.
Need to know.
Yeah.
It was a casual conversation. It was no big reveals, a few behind the scenes photos that I'm sure they've already posted online. But just seeing Ryan, well, there's 2 things. I lied. They're kind of a total of 4. But number 1, Ryan Johnson. I'm a huge student of classic films. Like I'm no Brian Young. I'm not super educated about it, but I have an appreciation for it because those are the kinds of things that my parents would show me growing up. Like, oh, here's Casablanca. Here's the old gangster movies. Here's Sound of Music. That's a little later, but like classic films of the 40s, 50s, and 60s. I grew up watching tons of them. So that's sort of informed my childhood of what I watched. And to hear Ryan Johnson stand on stage and talk about how he developed in his pitch when he was pitching to direct episode 8, he said in his pitch was what he called the episode 8 film school. I'm slightly paraphrasing, but basically this film school of films that he wanted Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, Curie Hart. He wanted them to watch these films to get an idea of the elements that he wanted. And the 2 films he named were, of course, as an Air Force guy, that we watched this. We watched this at basic training. I've seen it before as a Civil Air Patrol cadet. This is a big classic military film, 12 O'Clock High. Mm-hmm. That was one, and the other one that he mentioned was Bridge Over River Kwai, of course, with Alec Guinness.
Exactly.
And those 2 excellent films, and this is the kind of thing that there's this sort of weird generational gap, but if you're like a kid of the 70s and 80s blockbuster films, you understand what J.J. Abrams was doing. But if you love those films, those classic war films, 12 O'Clock High, one of the best emotional war films ever that really talks about the cost of leadership, like what it truly takes and what those men did. What those pilots did. If you're flying bombers, turns out flying bombers over Germany towards the end of World War II, not exactly a high survival rate. And when you're surviving and none of your men are, like that kind of psychological fortitude and frankly suffering that those men go to, it's tough to communicate. And 12 O'Clock High is one of the few films that does it so well. And so as a guy who's going into the military, I've never even experienced this stuff, but I've talked to a lot of guys who have. And if they nail that for episode 8, if he has that kind of vision for it and that kind of ambition, because he's a super quiet guy on stage, but if that's the film that we're getting for episode 8, I'm even more excited. That was one, and of course number 2, it's real short. It's freaking Alden Ehrenreich's or not Ehrenreich. I keep saying it wrong. Alden Ehrenreich's smile. The dude smiles like Han Solo. In fact, like John Boyega walks up on stage, sits down next to him, and then just kind of grins ear to ear and starts laughing and points at him and says, "Dude, hey, it's Han Solo. Smile there. Look, guys. And of course, the camera zooms in. So that was like that's the short version. That's Riley's highlights of Celebration Europe. An absolutely incredible time. And then we're already gone. Bethany and I are on a little European tour. We've got a few days in Barcelona, which is where I'm calling you now, from the beautiful Catalina Square, and then a few days in the Netherlands, and then tragically back home. But we've already posted all kinds of stuff, but we're going to be posting a lot more once we actually get free time.
Sure, and we will definitely be posting a link to all of your YouTube channel and on all of your coverage, because it's been so great to live vicariously through you.
Thank
yes,
you so much.
Well, it's easy to tell the truth, and I'm not a Sith. Exactly. And be sure to tell Bethany hello. We had a great time when she was on talking about feminism and Star Wars a few months back. That was great. So before we let you go, we got to hit you with our 5 questions we ask each guest on Coffee with Kenobi to show the commonalities we all share as fans. And the first one, Riley, is what is your favorite Star Wars movie?
Empire Strikes Back. It changed about 18 months ago. I was a Revenge of the Sith kid, but as I've gotten older, it's become Empire Strikes Back. It's the carbon freezing chamber scene. Mm-hmm. I could do a whole episode on just that one scene.
I recommend there's an article on StarWars.com by a guy named Dan Zayer where he breaks down the carbon sequence in a lot of detail. You should check it out. Yeah.
I will do that. In fact, sir, I have an assignment for you. I want you to email that article to me because I will forget because you're traveling about. So I want that in my box so I get to it when I get home. Thank you so much, sir.
Of course. A shameless plug. So favorite character?
Luke Skywalker.
Good choice. Favorite line of dialogue or film moment?
Yeah, I'm glad you included film moment because sometimes it's hard to remember an exact one. I can't say this is my absolute favorite because these are the things I'm sure you get this answer all the time. It changes. But one in the last year or two, especially I rewatched Revenge of the Sith a couple weeks ago before I traveled out, and it really jumped to me. There's this moment towards the end of Revenge of the Sith where Padme's just landed on Mustafar, and the film's picked up a pace so much. It's like once Anakin travels to Mustafar and Obi-Wan engages with Grievous right around the midpoint of the film, it gets into such a fast pace, such an extreme pace. But I've got to say, it's dizzying, especially if you buy into the tragedy. I say this all the time. If you buy in to the Shakespearean tragedy that is Anakin and Padme's relationship, and you don't just brush it off because of some of the poor dialogue, and you actually understand what George Lucas was telling, it is such a beautifully tragic film. And there's this moment where Padme lands and leans forward, and of course Anakin's you get the long shot of Anakin standing crying like me when I was first watching it. But it's this moment when she leans forward on the dash and just kind of sighs because she realizes, I think in her heart, what's going to happen. She's still going to try to save him, but I think this is the moment for me as a fan when I watch her character. This is when she realizes that hope is lost. And until the new hope rises, hope is lost here. And you hear the Across the Stars fade in for just a brief moment where you get the da 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 dun 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 dun, and of course then they get back to the Mustafar music. But it's that little brief glimpse into the love theme that just gets me. I'm telling you, man, John Williams kills you.
Hire that guy.
Time.
That's right.
Exactly.
So if you collect, what is your favorite collectible that you own?
I can't fairly answer that. What I can fairly... Well, okay, so the brief, easy one is the first one I ever bought at a convention, just as a collectible, because it started a tradition, and that is an Iwo Jima Stormtrooper shirt of raising the Imperial flag. And it's a dumb T-shirt. It's as worn out as heck. But what it started is because I got my kid on a college budget. I've saved all summer, and we're traveling a few weeks, and then I'll be dead broke when I get back. But it's okay. So
it's worth it.
So what that means is that whenever I go to a Star Wars event or visit friends or I get a gift or something, I just buy something absolutely and unapologetically random that catches my eye. And then I just put that in my bedroom / studio where of course we record the podcast and everything. And it's just this weird cacophony of collectibles, like a lot of little plushies, like a Jar Jar and Chewbacca plushie that I got from Dragon Con. And then of course this time around, I had to get something for Celebration, so it had to be the Loth Cat from the Celebration store.
Were those things flying off the shelves, or were they easy to get?
They were flying off, but they had a crap ton. They were just like bins and bins. So fortunately, I think they had enough for everybody.
So the store was better than Anaheim's store.
Well, again, I'm not a huge class. I'm sure there were items that everyone kind of wanted to get that went out. Like I think there's this Kylo Ren exclusive figure that I kept hearing about that was sold out. But that's okay because I just pick one random thing and I'm good. So that's kind of what I do.
Very cool. Well, the Anaheim store, because I'm a huge collector, you would wait in line for like 4 and 5 hours, and then you'd get in there and it'd be picked clean.
Oh, God. That sounds so terrible.
I'm glad the Force was with you.
Don't do it, guys. Celebration's about the experience. It's not about the collectibles. All right, sorry. I'm getting rant.
No worries.
No worries. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, last one for you. What particular messages or themes about the Star Wars saga resonate or speak to you?
Oh, this is so easy. And not in a bad way. Like, there is absolutely one message. The entire conversation we've had here, it's been a blast. If you're listening to this, I want you to take one thing away from our conversation, and that is Star Wars is the story of redemption. And the beautiful thing is now, that's not just the redemption of Anakin Skywalker. I think we're going to see the redemption of Luke. You see in the first film the redemption of Han Solo, and that's an easy word to throw around, but everyone in this world, and this kind of gets into a lot of my personal beliefs, but everyone in this world has fallen short, so to speak. We all have our flaws, and we all understand that that we're broken people, like that this world can be a really messy place, but the message of Star Wars. And why I think it's so universal is that it tells us that no matter what you've done or where you are, where you come from, whether it's this dirt planet of Tatooine or whether you've murdered a bunch of younglings, although maybe that is a little extreme, I will be honest. But I'm being only slightly humorous. But still, like, regardless of where your path has been and where it's taken you so far, where you are today has potential and has a place you can go, and that you can stare off into that sunset, jump into the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon, blow up the Death Star, create a chasmless void and destabilize Starkiller Base. Like these, you wherever you are, you can find your own personal greatness, and I think that's something that I've come to believe so strongly over the years. And Star Wars is such a huge part of that.
Well, I could not have said it better myself. And I too am a big fan of the redemption. And yeah, it's heavy, but it's also really poignant and beautiful. And as are your articulate ways of saying things. And we really appreciate so much you being on Coffee with Kenobi, and look forward to chatting with you, not only here, but as I promised you when I was on your show, I owe you a cup of coffee when I see you in Orlando, and I'm definitely gonna make true on that. So before we let you go, how can listeners get in touch with you if they want to ask you a question or just say hello?
Oh, absolutely. Well, here's what you want to do. There's all kinds of links and stuff, but there's only two places you need to remember. If you like Star Wars podcasts, and I'm willing to guess you do, just check out StarWarsReport.com/about, and that is our introduction. That's where you can just find everything about the show, the various shows that we do, and the content that's available, and how to subscribe. All that information is right there, StarWarsReport.com/about. And then, of course, for me personally, number one best way, if you wanted to see like a crap ton of pictures from Celebration, and then Barcelona, and then Amsterdam, and then, me lifeguarding when I have to actually start earning money again, you can head over to Twitter. It's at The Riley Guy, RILEY, at The Riley Guy.
Excellent. We will certainly post links to that as well as your YouTube channel. Riley Blanton, thank you so much for being with us on Coffee with Kenobi. Safe travels, my friend. Have a wonderful rest of your vacation.
Thank you, sir. We'll be in touch, man. See you in Orlando.
Sounds great.
All right. Bye-bye.
More to add, do you?
Our topic for show number 57 is the latest novels from the world of Star Wars publishing, Bloodline and Life Debt. Both novels have redefined the Star Wars universe and have added more intrigue to the galaxy far, far away. Joining us on this topic is James Floyd of Club Jade, Big Shiny Robot, and StarWars.com. Be sure to send us an email or MP3 with your thoughts, comments, questions, and opinions to feedback@coffeewithkenobi.com. And who knows, your question just might be featured on the show.
I like the sound of that.
Chewie, get us out of here!
If you would like to respond to our question of the show, have a comment, or just want to say hello, send us an email or MP3 at feedback@coffeewithkenobi.com. Or if you have a specific question or comment for either of us individually, email us at danz@coffeewithkenobi.com or coryc@coffeewithkenobi.com, or visit us at coffeewithkenobi.com and click on the Contact Us section or comment on one of the stories featured on the site. If you enjoy the show, please write a review in iTunes or Stitcher. You can also like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi, as well as keep up to date at our Twitter feed at Coffee with Kenobi. You can also find us on Tumblr at coffeewithkenobi.tumblr.com. If you enjoy the jazz music, the album is Eye to Eye by Steve Torok.
Give the evacuation code signal.
That's it for show number 56 of Coffee with Kenobi. A huge thank you to Riley Blanton for being our guest and for analyzing paradoxes in the Star Wars universe with all of us in our Coffee with Kenobi family. Be sure to check out the Star Wars Report wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Thanks again for joining us and being part of our Coffee with Kenobi family. A special shout out to Jason Hall, Joe Taylor, Dennis Keithley, Walt Fishon, Bradley W. Hall, Daniel, Angela Souse, Mediocre Jedi, Jared Cantor, BJ Smith, Eric Strothers, Nick DiCo, Aaron Harris, Mark Suter, Jesse, and Mike Claudette for their contributions to our Coffee with Kenobi Patreon page. Because of you and your generosity, you make it possible for so many people to have a unique voice in Star Wars fandom.
As we mentioned at the top of the show, there are so many awesome perks and opportunities for being a Patreon contributor to Coffee with Kenobi, including CWK t-shirts, coffee mugs, and even being on a coffee chat podcast of your very own. It's completely your show as you come up with a topic and questions and get to host it with us as we all chat about Star Wars over a cup of coffee. Be sure to check out our webpage or the show notes for more information, and you'll see other amazing opportunities as well, including even bigger ways to be part of Coffee with Kenobi you won't believe.
You can also help out the show through our Amazon.com, Fandango, Cufflinks.com, Her Universe, Zach Designs, and Center Sports affiliates links on the site. Thank you for supporting Coffee with Kenobi. We could not do any of this without you.
Be sure to check out the other shows in our Coffee with Kenobi family: Legends Library, Rebels Reactions, Comics with Kenobi, and Lattes with Leia, which are all here on the Coffee with Kenobi feed. A big thanks to our media specialist, Lisa Dullard, our Coffee with Kenobi bloggers, Nick DiCo, everyone who contributed to this show, and to all of you out there who listen to and email Coffee with Kenobi. Don't forget to send us your comments and opinions on the topic for show number 57, Bloodline and Life Debt.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
There's no one here. Move along. Move along.
If you love Star Wars and love the excitement of chasing your favorite Star Wars collectibles, the Star Wars Digital Card Trader collecting app from Topps is for you. Collect and trade with friends new and old through the Star Wars Digital Card Trader collecting app from Topps. These are the cards you're looking for.